starting to do too, so we're live.
We'll just go ahead and start. Okay. We'll get this meeting underway. It's the Prince City Council meeting Thursday, July 13th. And we'll start with the pledge. Shanna.
Sure.
Will you lead us in pledge?
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll excuse Clint for just a few minutes. He's stuck in traffic, so he should be here soon. We'll go to the consent agenda. So we'll look first at the check register. It should be in your Dropbox.
The only question I had on that is, why are we leasing or renting whatever plow truck or backhoe?
Because that's.
Was it for the, what was it for?
No, so we have, our backhoe is always on a lease,
Oh,
so we
okay.
don't own it, it's just a lease, kind of like the trucks.
Oh,
So,
okay, I
um,
thought it was like for some major something we had to
No,
do
no,
for.
so,
okay.
so what it is the old backhoe lease was up, so we've replaced that with the new backhoe, so that's
Oh, okay.
just the lease on the,
On the,
rather than own it, that way we get a new one every year or two. And we don't
okay, yeah, I was just misunderstood, I thought maybe we had some major something go down that we had to
No.
lease and let them.
have to. Not yet, cross your fingers.
Okay, all right.
Jesus.
No, that's,
There is a pretty big one that's payment for, a partial payment for the tank.
see that. And how close is that tank, do you know, Scott, or any idea?
Tank is coming along.
I was gonna report on that, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to that. I rode my horse up there.
I can see improvements daily, you know,
Oh,
from
yeah,
down
man, they're
here.
going. All right, if there's no other questions, we can look at the minutes. We can just, take care of those in one motion. Minutes were emailed out, if you've had any questions or corrections on those. If not, I'll take a motion to approve the check register and the minutes from June 8th.
A motion to approve invoice register dated July 13th, 2023, and approve the minutes from June 8th, 2023.
I'll second that.
All right. Shannon,
Aye.
Clayton,
Aye.
I'm aye.
Aye.
Okay, here's the check register, you can initial that. Next thing, next item on the agenda is public comment, so if you have a comment from the public that's regarding something that is not on the agenda, we'll take those comments now. If there is none, we'll close the public comment and move to the public hearing, which is the compensation study for city employees. And we'll welcome Melissa Cotter here, who completed that study for us, and turn the time over to her. Please, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I don't know if that works or not. I'm kind of a quiet speaker, so if I need to speak up, just holler. No. Can you hear me? No. No difference.
No?
That's all right.
That's okay.
I think you're okay.
Yeah. Language is spend a few minutes. I just want to kind of introduce myself a little bit. It was kind of fun driving up here. I actually grew up in southern Utah in a little small town called Enterprise. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Grew up in a farming community, graduated with 30 people. So I get small towns, we were a town, not a city. I raised my family, who lived in Morgan for 20 years. And so I also understand, kind of a growing city with growing pains, kind of like what you guys are probably struggling with, especially more so being embedded in Summit County and having a lot of interest in moving here. And so I've known Brad Christopherson for a number of years. I have over 25 years of professional human resources experience. The last 12 years have been focused on compensation analyst work as a consultant. And I primarily focus my work on public sector organizations. So I've done a lot of work with school districts, with county affiliations. I have a couple of nonprofits that I've worked with, and also special service districts. And that's how I know Brad Christopherson is from all the time that we spent together, him on a board, and me working with that special service district to kind of find competitive, marketable wages in order to recruit their employees and also to retain. And that's really tough in a market where you've got not just private or public sector organizations trying to take your employees, but also private sector. That the golden handcuffs of the pension really just doesn't exist anymore. People can look beyond that because they've got to make their budget for the month. And sometimes looking at that end of the rainbow with the pension makes it a little bit more challenging when they need the money today. So when I looked at kind of where to look for your data as far as to what to make recommendations for looking at a pay structure, you guys are in a unique situation. You're a very, very small town, but you're also around city, excuse me, but you're also around larger cities that can probably afford to pay a little bit more for the employees that do the same work as what Francis City does. And then you also are competing with Summit County, who again is a larger entity and can pay more. And then you also are living in an area with a very, very high cost of living. So you kind of put that all together and you guys have kind of a perfect storm. And so what we tried to do as I worked with Brad Christopherson and Mayor Foreman is just to find what is your market? What does it look like when you're competing and trying to recruit employees and also retain? And so we primarily just looked at public sector data because that's really the positions that we're trying to look at market data for. We used a very, very reputable database that provides all kinds of data and survey information for a lot of cities within Utah. And so we use that information in order to compile the data. However, it's kind of tricky when you're trying to compare Francis City to maybe like Salt Lake City, right? The pay might be a little bit different because Salt Lake City is managing multiple departments and supervising and doing all of this stuff at maybe a reporter level or maybe at a planner level, versus in Francis City, the employees are wearing like multiple hats. They're doing a lot more than just maybe what that position's doing. And so as we kind of narrowed that down, we looked primarily at just cities within Utah have a population, and we tried to start low so that we could have a true apples to apples comparison. But a lot of cities don't participate in the database that we used in order to analyze this data. So we went up to 25,000 in population. If we went any lower than that, it was really hard to kind of feel confident in the data that we were given. Through the process, as we looked at this data, we made sure that there was a good fit with the data. And I spent probably more than what Mayor Foreman wanted time to spend on just making sure that both him and Brad Christopherson felt comfortable with what matches we were making and where that data fell. And based upon that, sometimes data comes in at different times during the year, and so I have to do a calculation, which is called aging the data. And that just kind of trues everything up to look like it in real time. And so I aged the data to July 1st, 2023, and I used a 5% calculation, which is what the state of Utah is using this year for their living wage increase that they gave all of their employees. And so that was calculated into what my recommendation was. But again, remember I explained that you guys are kind of in a unique situation where you live in an area that's probably higher than that 5% cost of living. And so I calculated in an additional 4%. And I think that what that does is it kind of helps give you a marketable range of pay that kind of fits more of the area that you're living in and trying to be able to compensate fairly for your market. And that, with that in mind, we also felt like we needed to make sure that you had ranges defined. Something that Francis City has had. Francis City has just kind of paid their employees, given them a COLA every year, but not really had to define, here's a minimum level range and here's a maximum level range. Because if someone stays in a position for a really long time, they need to know where does that cap, where does that fall, or else you end up having employees that might be overcompensated in the market than what their position may warrant. And so using compensation best practices, I calculated what's called a 40% salary range. And what that is from the minimum of the range to the maximum of the range, there's a 40% calculation. With the 50th percentile of that range, that's your market. That's the data that we pulled, and I just built a range around it. Okay, if you guys, did you get the final report that I submitted? Did that get filled out?
That's a good question. I know they got the ordinance with the proposed ranges.
I have this.
Yeah, I don't know that
Did I not send that?
All I got was the ordinance.
I think that's all I have to do.
And I just barely looked at all my emails and it wasn't.
Just know that there's a final report that we'll provide to you
Okay.
that has all of this information. I apologize that you don't have it.
No, you're good for it.
Um,
Well, it might be my fault.
We'll see.
I have one copy if you want to share amongst yourselves. But anyway, you'll have that information to go over that kind of goes more in detail of the process. Anyway, the ranges were calculated as you can kind of see on the screen. You can see that we did 3 different levels of a public works labor position, and that's really based upon skill set and time that they have actually performed duties primarily within that CDL function. And so based upon where that position falls, as you grow and you need to hire maybe another full-time or part-time position, you now have 3 levels that you can go from. And then you can see that we have the treasurer, the planner, and the recorder position, and then also the public works director. So I'll also mention that the midpoint is really that marketable rate, that calculation that I came up with based upon the data. And then the range is a 40% from the minimum to the maximum. Okay? So kind of what I do after this is that, well, that's great that you did that, but how does that apply to current employees and where do we place them within the range? And so within this report that you will receive, I made a recommendation on where they should fall within the range. I call it a salary penetration. And so based upon that salary penetration, I took all of the employee information and basically how long they've been with Francis City, and I applied it into this model and calculated what a potential pay rate should be. And then based upon that, I did a cost analysis, and again, this is in your final report. I looked at, are they below the salary range? And when I did that analysis, there was actually 1 employee that fell below the range for what is recommended for that position. Everyone else fell within the range. So what that means is that even though you might not have had market data to go by, you still were paying marketable wages. And so that should go back to employees to realize that although we might not have had a formal study done, we still were paying marketable wages within a range of the 40%, okay? The next thing that the analysis I do is where do they fall within the ranges that we created. And based upon my analysis, there were 3 employees that were below where I would recommend placing them within the range. And 1 employee was above where I would have recommended placing them. And 1 employee is exactly where they need to be. So out of the 5 employees, that's not bad, right? I thought that worked out pretty good. And then I also do kind of cost of living, cost analysis. We targeted a 5% pay increase. And anyone who, based upon where we placed them in the range, if they were below 5%, we still recommended that they got at least a 5% COLA. So in that case, when I did that analysis, there are 3 employees, based upon the recommendation of where I'm recommending to place them within their range. There's 3 employees that will have more than a 5% increase. And 2 employees, sorry, let me rephrase that. I have my glasses here instead of here. So 3 employees have less than a 5%, so we will raise them based upon my recommendation would be to raise them to that 5%. And then there's 2 employees that already, based upon the market adjustments, have more than a 5% pay increase already, and so they wouldn't warrant any additional COLA adjustments. Do we have kind of a cost breakdown? Did you guys do that cost analysis breakdown?
So yes, we did. The budget that was passed, they had already calculated with the benefits addition. I want to say it was about $80,000 increase from a previous year to this year. And so the budget cost for the increases was far less than that. So I have it at my office, but we did, it's within the budget that you guys already approved. So this doesn't impact your budget to a tune that you need to modify the budget. All of the increases that were done based on the cost of living kind of discussion that you guys had covers this and then some. So there should be an underspend at the end of the year from those increases that you appropriated to wages and benefits.
And that's with including
including these adjusted, assuming you approve these ranges and things tonight, then there wouldn't be any impact to your budget as far as needing to adjust it. The budget you already have contemplated some budget increases.
including
These adjustments, yes.
But including the new employee.
Including the new employee, yes. So that was the major portion of that, of that number.
Right.
Was the new employee.
Okay.
So the rest of them were relatively minor.
Right.
In comparison.
So before I go any further, is there any questions? I know I rambled on this super fast and you didn't come prepared with kind of maybe having a chance to look at the final report prior. Is there anything that I could clarify or answer before I go on to the next topic that I was asked to look at?
Just maybe I could just comment real quick. So one of the challenges is that you've got is we have a kind of a group of employees that once they're here, they typically will stay a while. But what happens is when you try to find a new employee to come, it makes it really difficult. That's the challenge, especially in public works. So that's kind of the reason, as we talked with the mayor, that there's 3 different positions that were added to the range. So there's the entry level, the mid-level, and then a 3rd level for public works labor. Those were needed in order to make sure that we could recruit and give some growth potential for entry level workers as they came on board.
Well, I think it's important also that, like we talked about, the real goal, while the wage increase is part of the purpose of this, but the real purpose in my mind is to give that range so that as an employee of the city, if you start out as a public works laborer 1, that you might start at 17, but then you know what, is possible in the future, and then it gives you the steps to increase your wage as you stay longer, in those
increase your
positions.
certifications
And
and
increase your
experience.
certifications and experience, so that you at least can look at that pay scale and go, okay, here's how I can plan my long-term, budgets in my own life based on what I should be able to expect. And then, I think it also, something that we need to look at as we go forward with this, those increases in the future should be based on, if there's a COLA, that's one thing, but if you do a merit increase, it should be based on a evaluation.
And just to piggyback on what the mayor's commenting about, this is market data as of July 1st. And so as you know, markets change. If inflation, continues steady, or if it drops or increases, it's hard to, recruit short staff labor positions. Your ranges need to change. You need to change your ranges with the market. So even if you're only applying a 1 or 2% adjustment every year to the range, that still at least kind of follows market somewhat. But as far as doing kind of another marketable wage study, the recommendation is probably like every 3 to 4 years. Sometimes you might even be able to drag it out 5 years. But it's kind of nice to go in and say, over this last 5 years, let's say that's the magic number the city council decides, is where we look at this again, and you just kind of put it into your long-term plan. And you look at the data and you say, okay, here's our ranges. They stayed pretty marketable, but we need to make just a slight adjustment to kind of continue to make those work. So just know a lot of companies or organizations will adopt something and then they never do anything with it. So that's kind of my counsel to you, is that, you want to make sure that this is something that can work not only right now, but in the future. Okay, so kind of keep that in mind as you're thinking about that as in future discussions, and especially when you work on your budgets. Any other questions that we can cover as far as with the city employee compensation plan with that part of it? And one of the other things that I was asked to look at within the same database, a lot of the cities will submit what they pay for a mayor compensation and what they pay for a city council member position. And that can be tricky to know. This is not like you're wanting, to vote your own raises or, be compensated more because you guys are elected officials and you're public servants. And we understand that and we respect that, but it's also important to know, what is the market? What is other cities paying their mayor and also their council members? And so really hard to find data on cities for your population. It just didn't exist in this database. And so my only recourse was to again go up to that 25K in population. So even looking at this and kind of thinking, this really doesn't fit our model, at least it gives you an opportunity to open the discussion and say, well, maybe we should be paid a percentage more based upon the overall average in cities that are at that 25K mark, anywhere between, your population on up. This is the actual market. I only pulled city data that they reported within the last 24 months. So there was definitely older data that was out there. And I know that mayors and council members normally don't give a COLA increase to themselves. That just doesn't happen. But I still felt like it was important to get relevant data. So what I pulled was data that has been reported within the last 2 years. And then I did kind of, where is the median data point? So basically what that does is it throws out the outliers, the low reported, and then the higher reported, and it just says, here's the median data point. And this is kind of what it came up with, as you can see on the board. You're looking at, just roughly under $1,450 a month for a mayor position, and just under $700 for a city council member per month. And I know that that's significantly higher than what Francis City is doing right now. I'm not here to make a recommendation as far as what you should do. I was just asked to kind of look at the market and then report back in this final report. But I can answer any questions as far as, what questions you might have in relation to that analysis.
Council, just so you know, I did forward you that final report in your email, so you should have it. As long as you got internet access.
Yeah, I saw that. So just so that it's clear, the elected official compensation, that's not based on the high numbers of what a city of 25,000 would be paid. That's the median based on the average of a number of cities. So that's kind of the point, so to speak.
It's the populations anywhere between 1,000 all the way up to 25K with those cities who reported data within the last 24 months. If we could have done more of a targeted analysis, and what that would have required is to grandma all of the cities that you felt like were your target market for where you would pay.
Right.
And unfortunately, the time constraint and also the budgetary constraint to do that, it just, the data that we pulled is very credible and very reputable. It's the same data source I've used to pull the city compensation from. And it's really just those people in their cities that are reporting the data for their elected officials as well as for their employees that work in those cities.
One thing I think is important for the council also to be aware of is you really have confidence in this data. So what happens is cities that participate and subscribe to this database, they report their information on an annual basis, and so it's constantly updated. And Melissa is familiar enough with this database that she can identify if there's an error in the data, and she did. She's like, okay, this one we have to throw out because this number doesn't make any sense. It was, one of these cities just put the wrong number in the survey, right? And so she took that data out and threw it away and didn't use it in the calculations. One of the other things that she did on matching these descriptions. So before Melissa got on board, staff working with Suzanne and Mayor Foreman prepared their job descriptions. They worked through, here's the job description of what they do, covers their basic duties and kind of even some of the additional duties. And so not every city wears the same hats, not every planner that was involved wears the same hats that Katie wears in the city, right? So part of this calculation that was done is, and that goes with Antini as well, not Antini as treasurer, something she does that the other city treasurers don't do. So Melissa went through and she pulled, comparable job descriptions, and sometimes we had to take 4 of them in order to get the right data to equalize. And then it was, I guess, trued up to kind of a division of here's how much time this individual spends on this portion, here's how much time this individual spends on this portion of things. And so that went into, it was a complex process, and you'll see that in the report. And, the drafts and things like that, there was a lot of work. So this isn't just, because of these complex job descriptions, there took quite a bit of effort on Melissa's part to come up with these.
Right, well, and it's especially true with the office staff, wearing several different hats.
Exactly.
I think all 3, are wearing several different hats at several different moments. And so that it's important that's compensated appropriately, because you're asking a recorder to handle HR, and you're asking a treasurer to handle a whole bunch of other items that aren't really treasurer duties in any other city. Same with the planner. So it is just part of the deal here, but just because it's part of the deal doesn't mean that they should not be compensated for the job that they're doing, if that makes sense. So that was a lot of work, but I think it's important information to have.
Yeah, it is. It's not a simple process. It's a lot easier in a bigger city to come up with salary ranges based on the jobs than it is. It's more complicated here because of so many hats that we wear. I guess that's the point that it's helpful, I think, for you to understand.
And so what this would look like this year is not a COLA raise and a merit increase for the employees. It would be a market adjustment to get everyone where they should be, make sure everyone is within the range for their job description, which, like she's explained, would be a little bit less for others, a little bit more for others. But that will get everybody where they should be with the compensation and in the range of their job description, so that as we move forward, we can continue with a COLA and a merit like we've done in the past. And again, that merit would then be based on an evaluation, and the COLA would be across the board to all the employees. And I would suspect that generally speaking, the merit will be across the board as well, but in the case that you have an employee that has a difficult year, then that eval would show that and the compensation may be a little less based on that evaluation. Yeah, anything else?
Well, I have a question. I see a group here that's not in this plan. Have we considered a planning commission? Folks,
That
Did
actually
we-
not. That's my feeling.
pardon me?
That was my feeling. I did not direct that.
Okay, well, I was just wondering if we did.
I wasn't asked to pull
Okay.
data for that.
Right. That actually might be something we should look at.
Am I an issue? Well, I think, so when we got the subscription for the database, I was on he did a quick brief run through of the database. Anyway, we actually looked at planning commissions and there's not much data. Because typically planning commissioners are not employees, right?
Right.
They kind of on a per meeting basis. So that's something that I think we could look at, but I don't know that the salary study is going to show
Got it.
any
Okay.
information on that. But I think it's something that the council should consider. We can, council wanted to direct staff to go back and take a look at that. And we can grandma request some different cities, that were in that list that we used, and, based on that, we can find that out very quickly.
Okay, thanks for bearing with me, by the way.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Well, no, I'm sorry, I didn't even think about
Dude,
it. That's
I've
terrible.
got a planning commissioner staring at me, burning a hole.
I know, he's like, what are you guys doing? He's leaving me out of this deal?
Interject, Park City's planning commission gets paid $100 a meeting, and they have a lot more work than we do. And we didn't get paid for the first 2 years, which is fine.
Right.
It's an appointed position, you don't have to do it.
Right.
It's a citizen thing that I like to do, so.
No, agree.
I'm not asking a lot.
I think everybody here,
Yeah,
we're not doing this job for the
Yeah,
compensation, we're doing it for us.
Someone.
But,
not the state.
yeah,
Right.
exactly, exactly.
Right.
I was just, being on the commission prior to here, I was just
I'm
making sure
thinking
you
more
guys.
salary for the planning commission for us. 17 grand a month for us, for planning.
Yeah, that'd be
That's
awesome.
in the-
17 grand a month, that's a year.
But for planning, it would be a month.
Yeah.
Right. We better get really good.
No, I'm just gonna get, the
Could you guys vote on that?
planning commission, they put a lot of work into,
No, I agree.
so, that's all.
The planning commission is very important.
And again.
I have no
I
explanation.
did not mean.
I know, it's fine. I should have thought of it, I just didn't. So, anyway,
Moving on.
Would it be worthwhile to have at least something for another office staff person in there?
like a job description, is that what you're saying?
We
Like a
have to do
description.
a job description to add it, but that's easily added.
You wouldn't have to do a whole new study or anything like
No.
that, that could easily be done.
No, Melissa can do her magic.
Yeah, once you have it built, it's just a matter of now just using the same database that you purchased and just pulling the data.
Yeah.
And then that would just be a per position cost instead of a full study.
Right,
Yeah.
so yes, it's worth doing because I think that's something, like we've talked in the future, that's gonna have to be added. So I think that's something we should add in the very near future, but I don't know that it's critical for purposes of this meeting. That's certainly something we should add.
No, I just didn't want us to have to pay for a whole new system.
Right, no, great point, absolutely.
You pay for the bulk of just building, it's like when you build a house, you gotta have your foundation. That's what you just paid for, was your foundation, now you're building on that to make it work for Francis City.
And just not to toot Melissa's horn, but she did this at a very reasonable rate, based on budget constraints. So,
Oh.
the city got its money's worth on this.
For sure, and great work, by the way. Yeah, excellent. Okay, anything else you need to add?
I'm good.
Okay, well, this is a public hearing, so we'll open the public hearing and invite anyone from the public who has any questions, comments, concerns to express those now. Seeing no public comment, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the council for discussion. Any questions, concerns, thoughts?
I'm not saying.
You gonna embarrass me?
No,
again?
I'm not saying. I'm gonna sit.
Point out some other shortcomings?
No,
What do you want to do?
So if we do approve this and when does it take effect? Like tomorrow?
Immediately,
Oh,
July 1st.
Okay, like tomorrow.
So the way it's drafted, it would take effect July 1st, but the council can modify that, change it. I mean, it's your decision. I just prepared it to be.
I just didn't know if we
Same
had
time
to
as
wait
the-
till the new fiscal year started, or,
So the new fiscal year has started,
but that was in July.
July 1st.
Yeah, so we can backdate it to, that's what I,
Yeah,
Okay.
the ordinance is written to have it be effective July 1st.
okay.
And so, to be clear also on this, I asked for the mayor and city council to be included in the study, just for information purposes more than anything else. We can, I understand the hesitation to vote ourselves a raise. I share that hesitation with anyone else. So that can be left in, that can be taken out, that can be left in to be, effective at a later time. We could change those however we see fit, but at least we have the information, and that's the point. So that's kind of my 2 cents on that. Otherwise, being that it stays within the budget that's been approved, and it's my belief that your greatest assets are your people, and the better we care for them, the better they care for us. And we have some outstanding employees who do much more than is required of them, and oftentimes for little or no compensation. So I think that it's important that they're brought to the level where they should be based on this study. I think retention and recruitment, but especially retention, are super important. It's very expensive to hire new people, train them, lose them, hire more people, train them, lose them. And as you may be aware, it's been very difficult to get anyone even to apply for a job here, let alone keep them once they're here. So the people that we have, I think, again, are doing an outstanding job, and they should be compensated appropriately for that. Especially because it remains within the approved budget. And that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I would just say, thanks to Melissa for going through and doing that. And I appreciate being able to see the data. And I agree that, the city employees deserve to be paid what they should be paid. So I don't have a problem with that. And I think, it's like you said, when I saw this earlier, I'm like, man, I really don't like people voting themselves a raise. The only thing that makes me feel a little bit better about it is it's median, so it's not like we're out of a range that other cities are paying.
Right.
So I know that makes me feel a little bit better about that part, but overall, yeah, I think it's a good thing that we had this study done, and I don't have any problems with, compensating the city employees. It's just voting myself for raise gives me a lot of angst.
Sure, no, I totally understand.
Turn your mic.
Speaking of which, does that, the elected official range, is that within the budget? If
It was within the budget.
Obviously that would push us much closer to expending what's under.
Yeah. So typically, and there's an art to budgeting, right? Suzanne has done a fantastic job. 10 years ago, she was told by prior mayors that she needed to figure out a way to save money for a new city hall. So the way Suzanne has done that is,
Don't tell my secrets.
it's okay. There's nothing illegal about it. It's just creative, right? So what she's done is, so the office staff is open for, 4 days a week, right?
Right.
So, but she's budgeted 40 full-time staff, 40 hours a week, plus overtime in that calculation for over the last 10 years. So what that means is at the end of every year, there's been an underspend in all these line items. And so at the end of the year, you guys have approved budget resolutions. State law requires you to only keep so much in the general fund as kind of a budget surplus. The rest has been transferred into a capital account, capital spending account, earmarked for City Hall.
Right.
So that's why over that amount of time, those underspends have accumulated. Was 13, 14 years ago when there was an attempt to build a City Hall and there was not cash to pay for it, it would have been bonded for, and interest would have been paid. Well, we don't know exactly where that with construction costs right now, but there is significant dollars that have been accumulated over that time for the purpose of creating a City Hall and moving out of a double wide. Right. And so that's what Suzanne has done. Anyway, so because of the way that she's budgeted and because of that, there were some minor increases this year. The underspend when you approve these won't be as high as it has been in past years, but it's well within, you're still within it, there still will be an underspend based on the way that budgets have been done and approved and carefully monitored, which Suzanne also does a very good job.
Suzanne is phenomenal.
Not agree.
You get a gold star.
Suzanne was very, very, what's her term? Did not want, when I started asking her questions, it took me quite a bit of time with the decoder ring.
That's your litigation skills.
I had to cross-examine her, treat her as a hostile witness, and
Just tell me.
she's not, she kept saying, am I in trouble, No, that's called good budgeting.
Right. That's called excellent work.
She did what she was told to do, find a way to accumulate some savings to build a city hall. So.
Right, perfect. All right, any other questions or discussion? No, I'll take a motion of some kind. And it's an ordinance of 2023-06, just for information.
Mayor, just so you know, if you approve this as is, what it does, you're approving those ranges,
Yep.
Which were part of the compensation plan. And then each individual employee, there is additional recommendation in the final report for each individual employee, just because of the sensitive nature of having somebody's hourly rate appear on the screen. We audit it. Obviously, if somebody wants to ground request that, it's public record.
Sure.
But just for purposes of public hearing, we're approving salary ranges, and then the mayor is authorized to, provide a compensation figure within that range, based on the recommendations that Melissa has put forth. The way it currently reads in this ordinance, that would also approve the mayor and the city council members' monthly compensation to be increased to those numbers that are there. If you want to modify that as a percentage or delay it, that can be done, and you can do that as part of your oral motion, or you can accept it as is. And approve it as is. That's just completely up to you guys.
Does the motion need to authorize me to do that, or am I already authorized?
You're authorized based on your position as mayor and managing, supervising.
Well, that's what I was thinking, but I want to make sure.
Yeah, so this approves those compensation plans, and by approving these compensation plans and ranges, that allows you to place them within those ranges and within the budget that's already been done and the recommendations.
Right.
Fall inside of the budget and will not cause a budget adjustment to be made. Or required, I should say.
Very good.
I'll step on the landmine.
Okay, do it.
A motion to approve ordinance number 2023-06 as is.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll step on the other landmine and I'll second it.
All right.
At least everybody's name gets checked next to something.
That's right. We have a motion and a second. We'll do this roll call vote. The mayor is aye. Sam?
Aye.
Shannon?
Aye.
Clayton?
Aye.
Clint?
Aye.
All right. There you go. All right. Next. Stewart Ranch Phase 11 extension. Is this Katie?
It is. Yes, it is. So, last month, you probably remember discussing subdivision extensions for Hart Crossing and Stewart Ranch. And there was one phase of Stewart Ranch that wasn't up for an extension, it was phase 11 at that point, but now it is. Their final plat was approved July 14th, 2022, so it expires 1 year from then, which is tomorrow. Rex Campbell of the state managers sent a letter requesting the extension. That's what I have on the screen. He said, I am writing in regard to our need to extend the requirement to record phase 11 at Stewart Ranch for 1 year from approval. We have struggled with procuring materials for this project. In some cases, certain materials are over a year out from the order date. Additionally, our labor needs have been a challenge. One day you have a full crew, the next day one half are gone. We are requesting a 1 year extension to record phase 11. So this is similar to what we talked about last time. There is a development agreement that applies to the subdivision, which makes it difficult for us to take away those entitlements. They would have to reapply if we didn't extend, and we would have to approve it, so it doesn't really, something we should do is, so my recommendation is to grant the extension, and then, like we discussed last time, in the future, not tonight, but in the future, I'd like to look at extending the deadline an extra year, so they have 2 years to record instead of just a 1 year. 1 year's a little tight. You're not having anyone really make that, so. Anyway, this is not a public hearing. That's it for me.
All right.
And they are asking the extension until June, let's see. The other ones were extended to June 1st, 2024. He is requesting, it's in the letter,
I think it just says 1 year.
1 year, so what
Yeah,
year
June
now?
one.
So it'll be
July.
July 13th, 2023. 2024, thank you, Brad.
Did you say 2013?
2023, but it should
Oh,
have been
okay.
Yeah, so the extension would be to July 13th, 2024.
All right, any questions, concerns from council on that?
It's like about the same as last time, so.
Yes.
Same concerns as last time. I'll just make a motion that we approve the extension.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Oh, man.
Oh,
Jumped on that thing, that was me.
Rob, take
I think you
some
beat her, yeah, just by a hair. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Granted. Next. Frontier Days. Oh, man.
Oh, man, it's getting close.
Can you believe that it's almost
July
the
24th.
middle of July?
That the 4th is over.
Holy cow.
You guys looked amazing in the parade, Clint.
Yeah, thanks for doing that, by the way. That's a labor of love for sure.
My kids loved it. We gave about 10 times the amount of candy though. We
Oh,
learned a
man,
lesson.
yeah.
I even tried to get on that float, you wouldn't let me. Like I got.
Oh, I mean,
Oh, no.
You look good.
On your fire.
Yeah.
Tell me.
Okay, so as far as Frontier Days goes, everyone can give an update on what, kind of where they're at with their own, areas of responsibility on that. However, what is really important at this point is that we nail down, the schedule and timeline. I think that's pretty well done, but we need to make sure that that's, where we are. And I thought, or I guess what I'm saying is we need to make sure that we have everything ironed out so that we can build flyers and not have to be changing what we currently have as scheduled. I thought I had a copy of that, schedule. Do you have it, okay?
I do, the one that we made corrections on.
Yeah. Do you have an electronic one?
Can you pass that down, Jeremy? No, I just have the one. This is from last year,
Okay, so,
in a few different formats. Shelby's gonna update this one from last year for us.
yeah, so we'll more or less keep the same layout. And the schedule should be, you got one you can look at?
Yeah.
So the layout will be relatively the same. The events should be pretty close, so, we'll do the horse clinic and the trail competition the same as we did Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, which is the 29th through the 31st. And then the competition is the 1st. Is that correct? So it should be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday is Friday is the competition, so that's the same. We'll just change this to say concessions as far as the dinner stuff. And then the concert with Brent Hill and Andy Nelson is still planned for 7 PM on Friday. Then, on Saturday, which will be the 2nd, we'll have breakfast. Vendor booths like always, everything should pretty much remain the same. We'll just list it as live music. I don't know, was that you, Clint, who was gonna look into some, live music and talent for Saturday
Yes.
afternoon? So do we need to list anything specifically there, or are you comfortable just saying live music and entertainment?
Well, if we want to do, I wanted to get your thoughts on the talent show.
Okay, oh, yeah,
That would drive a lot of people into it, grandparents, aunts, uncles, stuff like that.
sure.
And that could, morph into a pretty good tradition, but, yeah.
Okay.
What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Sounds great to me. I mean, anything, I guess I will say this. I'm good with anything that's very traditional. It's one of those things. I think that we have a great opportunity coming up because it sounds like Canvas is going to be changing their celebration, at least part of it quite significantly in the future, probably next year, it sounds like. And so I believe that we're going to remain the only kind of traditional hometown rodeo event left, which I think we can capitalize on with those traditional type events where we still involve the community, we keep it as affordable as possible, and we include the community in everything that we do. I think we can really capitalize on that aspect of things. So I'm all for a town show or anything that is somewhat traditional hometown event type thing, personally. Anyway, so if you wanna add that as a specific event, a talent show, I think great. But do we want to make it like live music and talent show, or do we want to change some times? How do you want to list that?
I have a
Does
question.
that make sense?
What talents are we going to put on display? Like dancing, singing, archery, shooting, what type? Do we have to define that a little bit more?
I think we should probably define it to like musical, dancing, singing.
Yeah, something like
I
that.
agree with that.
Performance.
Like maybe anything you could do on a stage,
Yeah.
maybe not archery, or
Right.
wild,
Yeah.
whatever.
But it does bring up a good point that you kind of need to be at least somewhat specific on what you're asking. But no, I think that's a great
I think it's a
idea.
great idea.
Somebody's got something else. It's just a matter of how we want to list that. Do we want to give it a certain block and then do live music or something, before or after that? I think.
Or just commingle it in with it.
Right. And you can do any of that.
It just depends on how many we get.
Oh, no, I was just, yeah, I mean, there's plenty of people, like even kids in the community that are good at singing, playing guitar, stuff like that. I think it'd be good I think if we advertise it properly, we could get a pretty good show and bring a lot more people into the venue.
Yeah, and that's, so I'm all for all of those things. And we've got some stuff worked out for advertising, so we can certainly add that as part of it. I think the biggest thing, like I said, is just how do you want to set it up? Do you want to have a specific block of time? Like
Yeah.
10:30 to 1:30 or something
Yeah,
like that?
yeah, definitely not a 10:30 to 6:30. We want to have that done and have a judge and have like a 3-hour block or something, obviously depending on how many people we have in. So I'd say Saturday, 10:30 to 1:30 sounds good.
I think that's a good block. That, as far as the concession stand, that's our lull from the breakfast before we hit the huge,
Right.
lunch/dinner crowd.
And so for that next 5 hours, from 1:30 to 6:30, do we want to just do, like it says, live music? Do we want to get some local bands? How do you want to handle that?
I'd say live music, just like that.
Okay, so then 5:30 to 6:30. Or I mean, sorry, 1:30
1:30.
to 6:30. I think that's a great. All right, so then the rodeo. Did we really start? Oh, gates open at 6. Should we put on that time? So this kind of got confusing last year where it says 6 to 9:30. The rodeo starts at 7, but the gates open at 6. Do we want to just put for the time 7 to 9, and then over here put gates open at 6 instead of how?
It's in parentheses at the bottom.
I know, but it's a little bit deceiving. So I think if you do it opposite, right? If you say 7 p.m. to 9:30, and then in parentheses say gates open at 6.
Yeah, you can get people showing up at.
Because some people will show up at
5:30.
5 thinking the rodeo is going to start at 6. Okay, so something cool that I believe is set up. I've got to confirm everything, but I've got a contact with the military and they're, going to do a flyover with I don't remember the plane, forgive me, but it's one of those refueling planes.
KC-135.
That. So they're gonna do a flyover with that,
Nice.
and we'll do that on Saturday. As part of the military, because that's when we always do the military patriotic program, whatever it is. So we'll do that as part of that.
And do we have the flag jumpers again, whatever they're
Yeah,
called?
yes.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to Sunday, do we have a barrel race?
We do, I just texted her, but I have been in contact with her and she's still ready to go.
So it'll be the same breakfast, slack, and then the barrel race will be the following slack.
Yep.
Do we want to do lunch? Do you think that's important?
I think last year, I remember the breakfast, there was hardly anyone there, and I remember the Courtney said, we might not want to do that again.
So they didn't
So
show
maybe
up.
change how we did it,
Sunday.
maybe just have like one grab and go item, like breakfast burrito.
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna say, if we do breakfast or lunch, either, or both on that day, because it really is going to be contestants in the rodeo or barrel race that is gonna.
It's gonna be there.
It's gonna be there and use it. So if we do that, it should be pretty limited, like you said, a breakfast burrito in the morning, and then if you want to do one item for, if you want to do a hamburger only for lunch. But I don't know that we have to either, if that makes sense.
I don't know, I wasn't in the shack at all, so Clayton was gonna.
But you're saying they
say,
take the whole.
Yeah.
Jaeger made, so.
But on Sunday, I think after like 2 hours of being there, she's like, you can just leave.
So is
So
it,
they had like 2 or 3 people in there, but it was the court basically.
so is it your opinion we should not do it at all?
Well, if the people that are competing, because there were some people that came, but it was really pretty dead. We maybe had 3 or 4 people
Jeremy,
in a couple hours.
when we did it 2 years ago,
Uh-huh.
we just did breakfast burritos.
Right?
And they were loaded and they were big.
Yep.
But we did about, I think, I can look at the numbers, but I think it's about 60.
Okay.
And we knew that was gonna happen.
Sure.
The first time we ever did it, it was more of a convenience.
Right, well, I think, yeah.
Yeah,
that's
some
exactly-
people were hungry that came for that, and we gave.
Right. And I think that's really it, is it's a convenience,
Yeah,
so.
and it was easy to do, 2 or 3 people could pull it off.
Right. So if this is a business, a restaurant, we're like, no, but for this, it might be worth doing something simple.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess that's up to you, you two concession guys, you want to do it or not?
I think the breakfast to be, I'm open to that, the whole offering.
Okay.
Like I said, yeah, I think we did like, he said, Bob said 50 to 60 of them.
Yep.
It's revenue. And
Well,
it's more of a convenience for the
sure,
the rodeoers and the barrel racers.
and your staff is limited, you don't have to
Yeah,
have a
we don't have to have a
whole
whole
lot. You have a couple of you and you're good to go. Okay, so we'll just leave it then. Okay, then the barrel racing, and then the, movie at dusk. So if you've seen your emails, there's been several suggestions. Now's the time for us to decide on
Yeah,
movie.
there was a lot on there. I just need to narrow it down, it's too hard for me to solve.
That's right, you guys got too many
Give me
suggestions.
too many good ones.
What is going on here? Somewhere, I've got that email.
I thought I read it just a few minutes ago, but now I can't find it either.
Katie replied to it on June 13th.
I've got a printout of all the suggestions, if you just want me to go through them.
Yep.
Sure.
Okay,
Okay,
I can't find it.
all right, so I'll just start from, Brad wrote on here 8 seconds.
Just to keep it alive.
Just to
Right,
keep it alive.
keep going.
I'll vote for it.
Why did we bring him here?
Yeah, should we dismiss it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep going. Five Goes West, Robin Hood, the Avenue version, Swiss Family Robinson, Zathura, Hook, Inside Out, Free Willy, Jumanji, Babe, Wall-E, Lightyear, Greatest Showman, Zootopia, Cool Runnings, Super Mario Bros., Holes, Luca, Bad Guys, Matilda, Jungle Cruise, Top Gun Maverick.
Some of those I don't even know. Jumanji kind of can entertain a wide age group.
Yeah. Hook, that could probably do a
Hook,
wide age group too.
Yeah,
Like The Greatest Showman, I love it, but I don't think we'd get a lot of younger kids that would sit
That's
there
fine.
and love it. I mean, I love it also.
Last year.
That's fine, you don't need to
Yeah, right, no,
Play it.
exactly. I had to get them. Had to- Yeah.
But I'm not sure that we get them anyway. My grandkids just run around and play.
Right.
So
that's okay
maybe we
too.
want one that
Yeah, that's okay too. What else was there? Some of them I'd never even heard of, so if somebody wants one of those, that's great, I just don't know anything about it.
Do you think they're animated or
Well,
I
not?
don't think it needs to be animated, just something that's family friendly, I don't think we wanna get crazy.
So the
And
ones,
are these ones we can get for sure?
yeah, we can get all of them. The
I
ones
mean, we
that I
just don't wanna
suggested-
choose one and then say, oh, sorry.
The ones I suggested, I just went out to a few different other cities' websites, looked at what they were doing this summer and like wrote down the ones that I thought would work for us. So that's where I got my ideas. I don't have as much of the movie background in my head like Clayton does. So, not as creative.
Clayton, what's it gonna be?
You want me to take?
Yeah, Clayton, you
Well,
get
I
a pick
mean,
of this year.
Okay, so the ones that stick in my head was Babe, Hook, Zathura, Philo West. Those are the four that I was calling. Any of those I would.
What's the one, Zathura, what is it?
Zathura is like Jumanji, but space instead of jungle.
Never even heard of
The-
it. Might be worth it.
It's pretty much the same movie. It's a board game that sucks them into outer space,
Oh,
kind of a deal. So it's,
Babe is good. I'm good with any of those.
I would have picked Top Gun, but it's got the F word in it, so.
Paper, they-
Yeah, we
Can we
don't.
get an edited version? Like Clean Flips, so they do that in Angel?
I don't have the answer to that. I can find out. I can find out before.
Okay,
So
so
if we
we
want
want,
Top Gun Maverick, if we can edit it, get the F word removed, then.
That would go with the flyover this year.
yeah, you wanna do that? That'll be our first pick, and
That
if
would
we
be our
can't get it
first pick.
edited, then what?
That's, well, let's do Babe.
Okay, there you
It's
go.
our deal, and Babe.
I like it. Top Gun, if
And
we
then
can
we
edit
could
it.
have the
So-
kids,
Babe
that
is
we
the
don't
dog
chase
cage, right?
around.
Uh-oh. Run.
Not on call.
Oh, all right. Yeah, so let's do that then. Maverick, if we can get it edited, otherwise we'll do Babe.
You could do, well, I guess it would, Top Gun Maverick is probably more family friendly than the original Top Gun. Something like that.
I don't know if I'll
haven't
say
seen
it.
Top Gun Maverick, so it'll be a first for
Okay, so Top Gun Maverick, if,
I mean, it's PG-13,
right,
it's
It is.
mostly language.
right, there's one.
There's one seed
Good enough.
to be offensive.
And then are we gonna do, let's see, last year the, Lions Club did popcorn, right, the movie?
Yes.
Yes, they did.
I think we should remain that way, unless someone has a different idea. Are you gonna be open
Well,
for
didn't we
raising
throw
stuff?
around,
Well, that was gonna be, once we got around to me, that was a question I was gonna ask. We weren't last year.
I think we ought to be.
We ought to
I'll bet you sell some drinks.
be. We can't,
I bet you could
I have a
sell
lot
dinner.
of,
dinner in the movie?
I got some disgruntled people wanting to know why we weren't open.
Okay, so that's the next
They
question.
weren't there to volunteer.
Do you want us, because that is the problem, you gotta end up with more volunteers, so do you wanna do dinner? Do you wanna do drinks and
I just,
nachos? Do you wanna do?
yeah, I try and stick to like movie theater food, maybe a hot dog and nacho.
It's simple and it takes
Yeah, but I don't want
a
to
whole
be
lot
frying
less.
chicken all night long, you know, at
Right.
10 o'clock.
Right.
So do that. I mean, I'm totally good with that.
Go on, I'm gonna check it.
And I was in there all year last year.
You were a trooper.
So do you want to just do that, like you
Sure,
said?
we can have a limited menu. We do nachos, burgers, and a dog.
So should we add there then movie night, limited concessions maybe?
What time does the movie start?
Or should we just have one thing?
It's got to be dusk.
Movie
That's
and
not till
dinner
like
on it.
Yeah, it's gonna be like,
No, it was
Right, have a burger.
not in September.
September?
maybe 8:30?
I think,
Well, the
I
movie's
think it's
2
just
hours.
after 8.
Yeah, right around 8 was fine. That's when we started last year. I think we'll be okay.
So, I know last year, Brian was here to help.
Byron?
Byron, sorry.
Yeah.
He offered again.
Did he? Okay, because I'm pretty sure that the screen was ours,
Yeah, we have a screen.
and the
The sound.
projector,
Yeah, sound system is his.
but
But he
the
has-
speaker.
Because the speakers and the sound.
Yeah.
Is that,
He offered those.
is that something we should look at getting for ourselves if we're gonna keep doing this kind of thing? Maybe not that setup, but,
He's wanting to help us.
right.
Let's just keep
It's all
getting.
done.
You've got some money squirreled away.
Oh, that was
I saw that.
Don't do it in front of the sheriff.
Okay, yeah.
I just much didn't have a ruler.
All right, so let's see that. Good. Okay, then Monday.
When you say the screen, that's that blow up
Yeah,
Yeah.
screen,
yeah, which works really well,
It does.
unless it's winter.
unless it's windy.
No,
Then you just go sit on it while we watch.
Hey, easy.
All right, Mondays, breakfast, junior rodeo, kids' activities, vendor booths, bounce houses. Are we doing all of those things?
I did have a question, where'd Matt get those cornhole boards?
We have
Those
some.
are?
The city has some.
Our city has,
Okay, good. I was thinking you rented them or something, that was a good idea, I liked having those there last year.
Yeah.
no, we bought those.
Okay.
Okay, are we doing live music and stuff on Monday, or do you want to add the talent show on Monday as well? Do you want to do the talent show Monday, Saturday, and Monday, and then not
Do you wanna have the
not give
finals?
them a prize until Monday?
Yeah, or maybe have the
Two,
finalists
yeah.
come back and redo their talent?
You don't have it every day?
The five or something?
Maybe on Saturday, do the talent show and then have the finals on Monday.
Yeah, like pick the top 5 or however
Yeah.
many. and-
Okay, so how long do you want to have for that? 10:30 to 11:30? Do you need more than an hour?
Probably about 90 minutes.
So 10:30 to noon?
Okay, I'm just gonna ask, what happens if like 8 people sign up?
We're all going to finals.
We're all going to the
And
finals.
you're gonna have to supplement.
You're gonna have to recruit some talent.
If we don't have any show up, I will sing.
Okay.
You have not heard me sing. You haven't sat by me in church. You need to sit by me and sing with me.
Maybe want to have another couple of local talents or
Yeah.
something for
Yeah, I'm working on
the last 2 hours, from 12 to noon, from noon to 2?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And then lunch, and then the Bearbacks, Broncs, and Bulls, and that's it.
What hometown events are we having this year?
None.
Okay.
Well, no. So we'll do, hide race.
The high race is always a good one.
Hide race and things like that, but I'm not doing anything with cows because you can't get contestants and it just costs too much money.
Okay.
If we don't, if we had people, the money's not an issue, but it is when we pay for it.
And then no one's for that.
enters. So we can still do the hydration and rescue relay like we've done,
Okay.
or something similar to that. If you-
And for the, I'm sorry, we skipped this. We didn't skip it. I skipped it. For the junior rodeo, are we having steers and sheep? And should we do like Oakley did and make them sign up for 2 weeks ahead of time so we don't have that confusion?
Yes.
So I'm a little torn on that, and certainly I'm only one opinion, and that's.
Because I'm not positive we get everybody's paper and
I'm not
everybody
either.
that signs up gets to
No, I
ride,
agree,
so.
I'm not either. The one thing that I would like to be careful of is, you gotta limit it some, right?
Mhm.
But I don't wanna over limit it to where it is less fun, right? Because for me, the goal is I want this to be a little bit traditional down home,
Yeah.
you know, kind of just a good,
It's Labor Day,
just
go
a
to
good old
Francis,
party,
ride a sheep.
go to Francis and have a good time for not a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so I think there's gotta be a balance personally between being too formal and being formal enough that we can at least control
Yeah. So maybe not a month ahead of time, maybe a week ahead of time, start advertising, hey, if you want to ride a sheep, let us know.
So the way we've done it last year, we just had we numbered the papers for how many sheep
Right.
and steers that we could allow them to be ridden. And then that was their ticket in.
it, right? And that's kind of, and we've done that in the last few years, we haven't numbered them, but like
Yeah.
what Shannon's saying is sometimes it just becomes mass chaos and it's hard to control. The Queens did a pretty good job, last
They
year was
did.
much better than it had been, so I mean, I don't know.
Oh, no,
I
we
just
can,
don't wanna overdo it.
yeah, we can do that again, but I was just,
I think you could do that too, because they've said they don't want their sheep ridden more than so many times.
Right.
That's the way to try to not over.
Well, yeah, number in the papers for sure, like if you have 50 sheep and they can go twice, you can have 100 papers. That's the only math I can do. So, anyway, that's my 2 cents. If you've got a great plan, I think that's good. I don't want to get too carried away with regulating.
I just hate to change it up on people too. We've kind of just done it the same way for a while.
Right.
I don't know. We could look at doing it that way, but I just worry people are gonna show up. And
And be disappointed.
yeah, the kids think they're gonna ride and they're not.
and is that all we're gonna do again, is those two? I mean, last year, you and I talked about maybe having steer Dobbin, you know, or maybe it wasn't you. I talked to somebody,
Yeah.
like team roping, you just have a stick and you swap mustard on a steer or something, and then the time ends instead of.
Yeah. I
Or
mean,
should we just stick to, I know, cause rusty steers they'll rope too, they'll, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay making it a little bit bigger. The only thing that concerns me with that is running out of time.
I mean, we could add that into the horse games,
Maybe make
but I
it,
probably won't be there.
right?
Just
But make
saying,
it-
I don't have a sub still.
And I think that's what you and I did talk about, was
Okay,
making
was
the
that-
horse games a little bit more of a,
Junior
like
rodeo.
almost a junior ranch rodeo.
Yeah. Okay, that's probably what I was,
You could do that. Honestly, I don't care where we do it.
okay,
I think that's a great idea, so.
I'll just have to talk to Rusty and see if we can get his steers for that too, instead of just that. But I'm sure he will.
Yeah, I would imagine. So, yeah, good, okay. Now, the next big thing to discuss. Food trucks, do we want to have food trucks? No.
No, it's usually just outside here in the summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, do we want to have food trucks? If so, how do we want to do food trucks? Because that's something we need to decide for sure tonight, because we'll have to change some of the paperwork with the county, which we can do, it's not the end of the world. Suzanne will kill
It's not
me.
the end part, well, is it?
For us, it's not the end of the world, you can take care of it.
Right. We can get that fixed if we need to. My only, I know there's some options, and I know that you guys have investigated this a little bit. I know Clayton talked with Oakley and sent us all some information. My only thing personally is I don't want to take away from what we've got going. So options are great, as long as it doesn't cut into the only thing that makes money here, which is the concessions. So if they're gonna come and they pay a portion, then I think we're fine, if that's what we want to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I just don't want to take away from what we've got, that's it. If we can do it as an addition and not cut our own throat, it's fine.
Well, how are we gonna know until we do it?
And have you?
Well, I don't know that we will, I think you're right there.
So I think we definitely need to take a percentage.
You'd
And
have to be close to 8,000.
Well, but if it took half your business, you don't have to take 4, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but then you're not gonna get the 4 back. That thing you sent from Carolyn, they charged them 10% of whatever their sales were.
Yeah,
But it might bring more people
right.
than just, oh, I don't want a shack burger, but
Well,
I'll
go
get
get
some
some
corn dog or
options,
something.
that's
whatever
true.
it is. But like, until we try it, we don't know. Like, it could be a disaster. We go, oh, we'll never do that again.
Right. No, I agree. Sometimes you just gotta decide and go with it. And there's nothing wrong with it.
Well, I think the way I've understood it is, okay, this is not a moneymaker for Francis, it's more of a community event.
True, absolutely.
So if we have, especially if there's food trucks from the community, you know, that wanna come, okay, well, that's only bolstering that mission
Yep.
statement of it being a community event. And I understand some of the people Clint's talked to are not local people, which is fine as well. You know, that doesn't bother me. But I do, sometimes I kind of wonder, like, oh, you know, we talk about this, well, this is the way, we want to be the same every year, the same every year. Well, do we though? I mean, it's one thing to be close to the same every year, but do we want to do the exact same thing every year for 20 years?
No, not necessarily. I agree.
So,
No, and again, I think it's okay to do, as long as we can, you know, and you're right. I know I've always felt this way. If this thing costs the city $1,000, then so what?
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's not the goal. We want to break even, right? We don't want it to cost us money. But if the taxpayers, the residents are able to come, have an enjoyable time, doesn't break the bank, we don't have a ticket that costs $25 to go to a rodeo, and you can come and have an enjoyable time and it costs the city $1,000, I don't think anybody's gonna have any problem. Again, that shouldn't be our goal, but
Mayor,
yes, sir.
don't the proceeds from the lease on the cell tower go into Frontier Days?
Yes.
Okay, so there's,
That was all.
but then there's sponsorships too, right?
Right.
Just a couple of thoughts since
Yeah.
I've been in the shack off and on the last few years, so. It does get crazy in the shack, it would be nice to take a little bit of pressure off of that,
Yep.
for sure. And to give people an option because it gets crazy. The other thing to think about though is we do try to break even on Frontier Days, my understanding, but we kind of make up for somewhere we spent other money from making some money from the shack. So we
Right.
don't necessarily want the shack to break even, that actually helps us pay for some of the other stuff.
Right, that's correct.
So, I don't know. I think there's pros and cons, it's a tough choice.
But like Clayton said, we might decide to do this and it might make more money. We just don't know. We might decide to do it and we make half what we need to make. It's just hard to say.
well, for me, it comes down to what are we trying to do? Is this just a community thank you? And hopefully we break even so that it's not costing us money.
Yes.
And at that point, are we wanting to bring people from the city? Because that's what we're doing when we're advertising on like cable or KSOP or whatever it is that we're doing, right? So are we wanting, I'm not saying we're chasing Oakley Rodeo or Oakley Week, 4th of July weekend, but is that kind of the direction we're wanting to head to where, oh, this is kind of a destination, family tradition where people come from all over the place on Labor Day weekend to Francis Frontier Days, or are we trying to keep it like, no, this is just kind of a community event, let's not get too big and reach too far?
Well, yes, for me personally, and that's all this is, I want it to be very traditional, very family oriented, and to break even. That's the goal. And so the best way to do that is to invite people from all over, but really it's for those who are local, and by local, I would say the valley. You know, I don't think it's only for Francis residents, that's not the goal. But I want it to be traditional, family oriented, and local. That's really the goal, but I think the best way to break even is by inviting people from at least a short distance away.
The big difference I've seen from day one year, because I worked for Oakley for 10 years, is consistency. Out here, it's never consistent. You need to get to the point where you're consistent. And that's why they do so well. They're consistent with what they're doing.
Yeah, that's probably true.
But like the whole food truck thing, that's a fairly recent phenomenon.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that changes. I don't think that changes.
But it's like just having, well, I mean, we've always had vendors, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a food vendor. So yeah, it is competition for,
Have you talked to Carolyn to see how they did with how many vendors are?
I don't know. I mean, Suzanne, she worked Ballerina Farms booth there, and they were selling food, and sounds like they did really well.
They were right next to Denise's.
Yeah, I didn't go to the rodeo, but I went to Denise's.
I was gonna say, you have to get Denise's if they're, it was a food truck.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, and I volunteered hourly, not this year, but previous years. And since they've added the food trucks, their concessions have gone down. Like, they're not as busy.
Right.
But they do get a percentage of all those guys. But maybe you guys don't have competitors, maybe you offer like the Andersons come over with their fried bread, like dessert type food trucks, instead of competing with dinner.
Well, the other thing though too is, if I'm sitting there and I'm not planning on going to the shack to get a burger, but I'll go over there to get a corn dog.
Sure.
Well, at least you're getting 10% of something rather than nothing, right?
Right. No, I agree. So bottom line is, we can dang sure try it and see what happens. I mean,
Have we talked to any food truck owners? I mean,
Yeah,
are they willing to come, or are we just throwing this out there and have one food truck come?
no, I've got a couple interested, I just didn't wanna take the next step until I knew
Yeah.
exactly what.
Okay, I just didn't know if we had even reached out.
They were willing with, I think it was $250, right? If you're a food vendor, is what it says on the website. But yeah, I wanted to double check with that. So I guess we need to decide whether to stick with $250 or go 10%.
I think the 250 is way too little.
I agree.
I mean, 'cause if we're trying to make 8, and we're only charging 250, and they take half your business, well, they want your 4,000 for 250, like that makes no sense.
When I was looking into food trucks when I did food concession, I talked to guys that were doing French fries and waffles. And it was when they make $500, and the city gets 20% of the take after that.
After that, not like every
For them to
5.
do $500 was maybe 60, 70 people. They're priced, but you take 20% of that, that's stuff for concessions that we have to profit.
Right.
And then, ice cream would be a huge one, or a donut maker. If you pick the right truck, you'll make money.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is,
Deal with,
Well, you don't get a hamburger guy, right?
no,
But if you say like,
Well, that Dippin' Dot line was forever long every night.
yeah, something like that. So,
so I guess if we're selective, we're not competing against ourselves, but maybe offering options that would draw someone that normally wouldn't come.
Yeah, I've got a guy that he just does like smoked cheese, and it's amazing. It's not something that would really compete against, what we're doing, but, so if, 10% of that, would add, but it wouldn't detract at all.
well, and so, I mean, here's a thought too, if it's like smoked cheese, is that a food vendor or is that a vendor? Does that make sense?
Well, the Fudge Fairy is just a vendor, right?
Right, so that's what I'm saying, like, I don't know,
It's
that,
fudge for dude.
like, for the smoked cheese, it might just be a regular vendor.
Right.
Yeah, it's very, it's amazing.
I was making that up.
no,
Well, I like the idea of like, hey, you hit a certain number and then we get a bigger percentage.
Yeah.
Rather than just, hey, it's straight 10% off the top. If you give them that, hey, once you hit $500, then you owe us 20%.
Oh.
Then they know, okay, we're at least gonna pocket something.
And there's what, 2,500 people that show up.
My biggest concern honestly is how do you make sure they don't short you?
That's my question, is how do we
That
track
was
it?
Sam's.
I think it's in that contract that Oakley showed us, where it tells them that they have to give you a certain, that's a contract, yeah, they have.
Right, I guess what I'm
they have
saying
to
is how do you
show
hold it with the contract? How do you know that they didn't
Registered tape or is it honor system?
Well, that's what I'm saying, how do you make sure they didn't make 10 grand and only report 5?
Well,
Does that make sense?
I guess you can.
Well,
And maybe you can't.
You can if you require a registered.
Install a security camera.
Well, yeah, but if they're taking $5 and just putting it in the box under the thing, we never made
But you're
$5,
never gonna know.
right? They could,
So then you're on, pretty much on our system.
right? But if you have a guy and you're like, hey, I saw your line was busy every single day, you're telling me you make $200, get out of here, you're not coming back next year.
Yeah, if you wanna come back, you're gonna.
Right.
Yeah, I think they'll tell quite very easily.
So, I mean, so is the 10% good?
I actually like the hit 500 and then we'll take 20. I like that better.
Where are you putting them all?
No acre that we just saw, I don't know.
Then that, we gotta go back to how many. You know, how many we want,
Because
which
that's
is
your
pretty good.
parking for everything back there.
I think though we could line them up along the trees on that south side.
So they have to bring a generator.
They'd have to be self-contained because we won't have power, yeah.
One more thing to think about, so on the vendor application we have now, the one that says the 250, that usually is over on the grass where the tents have been, like under that tent, you might remember from last year. And that requires that they be here from like Saturday morning, all day Saturday, and then Monday too, morning to after the rodeo, well, to when the rodeo starts. These food trucks probably aren't gonna wanna be here first thing in the morning, they're gonna wanna be here like a little before the rodeo,
Peak hours.
peak hours, so that might be a different form or a different kind of application.
I think it would need to be different.
Yeah.
All right, the form needs to be generated with the verbiage that Bob brought up, that first 500 is yours.
And then the hours, we have to decide when we want them to be here. Yeah, I'm sure you can, but I'm just thinking it's gonna look different than what we have right now.
For sure, yeah, because food trucks are not gonna be treated as a regular vendor. I think your smoked cheese guy is a vendor.
Yeah, well, and so even here, I just pulled up that contract, right, that Oakley sent.
Yep.
It says date times of food vendor operation at the event. It gives them days and times that they're there.
And they need to be there, so
Right.
we're kind of counting on
Well,
that.
that's the thing, if you're telling them you're gonna sign a contract for this, I don't know if you put it, the penalty if you don't is whatever.
Penalty is you're not coming back. It's really about all you're gonna be able to hold them to, you know what I mean?
Right.
They pay with the application.
But, and then at the same time, like they require certain things, right? Summit County food handlers permit or whatever it is, you know? And then we don't, as far as I know, we don't have a contract with Coke
No,
or
we
anything,
don't.
so we don't have to require anybody to serve certain things. But same thing, like they have no sells alcoholic beverage in their contract, like, I think it's a good template that we can.
Yeah, we could, let's forward that to
So
Brad.
I'll just have to make sure they get with the county and they have their county permit and we have.
No beer, no.
Right, so that's, I guess is my question, is when that comes up, if they have their own county food handlers permit, do we have to change anything?
I still have to say who's here, because they'll probably double check.
Okay.
So typically, the licensing requirements are where the food truck is commissary, right? So I don't know if you, but it's Salt Lake County-based food trucks, or if they're all just up in Summit or Wasatch. But typically, if you have a food handler's permit in Salt Lake County, it's still good on a food truck if you're delivering food or.
If you
passing
travel
food in
somewhere.
Summit County, right? Because your licensing requirements are based on where you're commissary, not where you're
Right.
selling the food.
But I think the county here still double checks that to make sure.
I'm sure.
I mean, if they should have them wherever they're located, yeah. It's not that they shouldn't have, it's not a waiver requirement,
Right.
but it's not usually an additional one.
Okay. All right.
Okay, I forwarded that email chain to you.
So in that case then, so we're gonna do food trucks. Is that what we're saying? We're gonna do food trucks, we're gonna require a certain percentage, Brad can help us with that, get the contract ready so that we can invite them. We can probably get maybe up to 5 across there.
Yeah, I don't see any more than 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I would take a couple of them, I just didn't want to move forward. So we're thinking, is it nothing? They do 500, or is there like an application fee and then they get 500, and then it's 20%? Is that what we're?
So let me just do a quick review of other different cities and similar events and see what they do, just so that it's not a shock to them if we do something.
Yeah.
And would they be able to sell beverages also? But, I thought I saw something on one of the applications saying no beverages or something like that, or.
That would definitely dip into ours. And that was gonna be my next question. The dock trailer, is that something we could get for us?
The different
The
dogs?
different docks? Who,
I don't know.
I don't even know where they came
I
from.
have no idea.
I think they're.
I went to the rodeo and I noticed that all the outside food, if you want to label it that, it wasn't in direct competition to the burgers, the dogs, the pizza, and the stuff they were selling out of the snack shack. It was Dippin' Dots.
Yeah.
But I think those places are like,
Cookies.
the corn dog place is still probably giving you a drink or offering a drink.
You can if you want, but we're obviously gonna have them there too.
Right.
And I did
But
notice
that
that,
doesn't alleviate any pressure from you either if,
well, the water, I bought water from the concession stand and walking through, I did another one and I paid $1 less from one of the vendors outside from the snack shack.
right, well, I guess what I'm saying too though is if the food truck can't give you a drink, if that's part of the contract,
And you're going to buy another drink.
then
at the
you're
shack
going,
anyway,
oh, so your line's gonna get just as long.
Or just have a
No,
line of drinks.
No, you're absolutely right. I'm not saying not to. I'm just saying that it could dip into,
No, I agree, but it also,
convenience wise, it'd be great to have a drink from the person you're buying.
it also still increases their gross.
That's true.
So I don't know where that balance is.
Well, that was gonna be one of my next questions. We're asking for 20% of the gross or of their net.
Well, this says net.
It does say net on, then, oh, please.
Yeah.
Okay. Which, honestly, I think that's fair. You know,
Yeah, 10% net.
so then I guess, the 2 or 3 that, the food trucks I talked to, they weren't like Dippin' Dots, they weren't like the Fudge Lady or whatever.
Right.
So it was
They're
more food. So now,
What?
I was vacillating back and forth whether that was good or bad. But I like the idea of, you know, if we get, my only question would be, if we're gonna do that, do we go to the corn dog lady that's here in town, or that's in Camas? Because I think she was local, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, I don't know why not.
From here.
So do we want to get local? Because the people I talked to were not local to Francis. One I talked to was in Heber, one came here to Francis at the Premier Dog Place. They have an open house. It was called the Yummy Tummy.
Well,
Yeah,
if you,
And they have great food.
if you try to limit it to only something that's in the Campus Valley, you're gonna be pretty darn limited.
Okay, agreed.
But we have soda and corn dog, that's all. Well, and there's that Chinese truck.
Well, no, I'm only talking about that one behind Chevron. The other-
No, Happy Tummy, who you talking about? Because I go to that every time a guy comes in the valley, but he's not from here yet.
No, I know, but he was all excited about coming up when I talked to him.
I think that's fine. I don't, if you try to say you can only come here if you're a Camas Valley, you're not gonna get them.
No, but I do think it's good to reach out to.
Oh, absolutely, we should invite those.
Yeah.
The one in Heber was a taco truck. Wasn't in direct competition to us, because we don't sell taco trucks.
I think that's fine.
So I could reach out to both of those. Your cheese guy, who else did you have?
I think we should reach out to Anderson's too and get their,
And they were selling Dole Whip also at the rodeo.
oh,
And
they did Lily's wedding and they were.
They do well.
It was great.
My suggestion would be 3 trucks. If you bring 5, it's too many choices, they won't make as much money,
Right.
and they won't want to stay, come back.
I think we do the 3 plus our
3 is plenty in the concession.
culinary corral.
Well, that's not what's gonna be done.
We get rid of that
Yeah, that's scratched.
culinary
It's
corral.
just the shack, we're not gonna.
We're going back to the shack.
Yeah,
Okay, well, there you go. We can take up to 3.
Yeah.
We'll get a contract.
Okay, I like his cheese guy for sure.
The cheese guy is, I think.
Oh, he's not food.
He's just a vendor.
He's just gonna be a vendor.
Depending on what we decide, he,
So now,
like,
do we need
amateur
to,
master barbecue guy too, and so he just.
Well, if he's gonna do the barbecue, I think that's food, but if he's just
Sure,
doing cheese,
yeah.
that's just a vendor.
so now that we've narrowed down, do we try to get the Dippin' Dots and fudge, or do we want
Corn dogs have been here.
Yeah, Fudge.
Fudge has been here.
They've been here in the last couple of years I've been.
Last year, I
Okay.
didn't come last year.
I didn't see fudge people here last year, I've been
She
eating that.
said she wasn't coming.
She's probably wanting to retire.
Dippin' Dots
I
will
think
make
she did something other
a
than.
lot
I think
of my
Jim-
family along.
She did, that's right.
She, yeah, she did, because I heard people say, just go to her house, she hasn't set up to her house.
Well, if we're doing 3, I would try the local people, like the Andersons, the corn dog truck.
What's the Anderson?
What's the Anderson?
Funnel cakes,
Oh,
And Dole Whip, I guess.
Yeah. They're
That
all
would,
at
that
the
would
front
probably
side.
be good.
what is it? Dole?
Yes.
The only thing with the corn dog truck is he needs.
Pineapple ice cream.
It's really good.
Corn dog truck doesn't need power? I don't know. I know
Whoever they are will
there's
have.
one
to be
It's
Heber
hand Dyson's. I know the guy that owns.
by the furniture
Yeah.
place.
They're the same.
Yeah, they're the same truck, same big. There's 2 trucks or 3? I think there's 2.
There's a lot of trucks, there's more than one.
No, I mean, corn dog.
That guy owns those 2
Yeah.
trucks.
Oh, okay. Well, then I guess.
Whoever comes is gonna have to be self-contained,
Okay.
we won't have power, there's no way.
I just said I have to talk to Luke and see.
There's not enough, I'm certain there's not enough.
I don't think there is, because the band,
So I asked
Black
him
ones.
last year about it,
I don't-
someone the year before it said something to him. And he said he needs power.
okay, well then, corn dog guy's out.
I would just say, see who you can get a commitment from, if we get 3, then.
Unless you're doing a generator.
Well, I don't know that we know yet. That's the thing, you know what I mean?
And then, yeah, if we get the generator, then we're responsible for the cost and the fuel, and have him do his own.
No, it would be a donated
it's their
generator.
generator, they can each need.
Well, they,
We could get a sponsored generator, but the thing is, if we're gonna do that, they need to pay for it. It's gonna cost you extra if we provide the power.
yeah.
I think they should be self-contained unless.
Well, I know, what is it, Yummy Tummy? What,
Happy.
Happy Tummy? He's self-contained.
What's the?
I'd say just see what you can, if you can get some commitments from 3 of them, then you got it. Just keep everybody in the loop.
He
Brad, you're
had,
gonna get, you're gonna look at it, kind of review and let us know.
it's katsu chicken, they had teriyaki chicken, they had pot stickers, they had egg rolls, rice.
It just makes your tummy yummy.
I go there every time and
they're- Yeah.
That's definitely different.
Special,
It makes
it's
sense.
special. Like I said, that Premier Pet Shop, they brought them up.
They brought him up a couple times.
Yeah,
I'd vote for him.
So there you go.
well, I have his card, so I can
Your dog, right?
Yeah.
But now, when I was talking to him, now, he wasn't too keen on coming on Sunday.
I don't think you need to be here on Sunday.
So just
I think
Saturday,
that's,
Friday?
if they want to, they can open, I mean, we'll be here, but,
Yeah, they're welcome to, but I don't think they need.
but I don't think that should be.
I would think Saturday and Monday.
Saturday,
Today's gonna be the biggest day, right?
Saturday and Monday.
okay. Okay,
Which day is bigger, by the way?
Saturday.
That's the road.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy Saturday.
All right,
One other thing,
shoot.
we talked about maybe doing a survey to find out where our advertising dollars are best spent. Is that something we want to try, or maybe put that on the back burner for next year?
I think it'd be valuable information.
I mean, if we could just get like a card that we hand out when they come, like where'd you hear from us, drop it in this box, and we can do a drawing at the end of the rodeo or something?
It'd almost be easier to do a QR code.
Yeah,
You can answer 1 question or 2 questions.
but then then we can just do a drawing, just like, and it could just be like, hey, here's $10 for the shack, or whatever.
Right.
It doesn't
No,
have to be anything.
That's fine if you want to figure out how to do that, that'd be great.
Yeah, we could do that. What questions
QR.
would you want to ask, like, where you're from?
Where are you from? How'd you hear about Francis Frontier Days?
And what's
What are
your
your thoughts?
what's your favorite event or
Yeah.
something? What's your favorite thing at Francis Days?
Okay. Should I just keep the Survey Monkey survey that we have now and use that again? Seems like it worked pretty well.
Probably.
If it works, why not?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think we need 10 questions, but 3 or 4.
Where are you from? How did you hear about us? And what was the last one?
then, yeah, we just make sure they know, hey, enter a drawing for prizes or
So
something.
we have to have them put in their name and phone number if they wanna,
If they
if
want.
they wanna be a in the drawing.
Right.
Cool. Anything else from Heritage wise? I guess,
Well, my queens I'm really using them for everything at Camas, so
good.
if you guys need them for anything here, they have more events at Camas, but we can use them just as much here. Like they're going to the melodrama, the demolition derby, everything, so.
For, the horsemanship clinic,
Mhm.
I already talked to Faulkner's,
Okay,
well, I talked to their dad. But all of the royalty is invited and it's just covered.
okay. Perfect.
Then what?
It's just covered.
They don't have to pay a fee.
Right, they don't have to pay.
They can just come
They
and
cover the clinic and,
participate.
yeah, it'd be good, yeah, be part of the clinic to help them with their horsemanship.
Okay, so they won't be there helping you, they will be
They
there
will be there as
participating.
participants.
I'll put that, we just have. a
If they want to,
message
they
on-
don't have to, but they're
But
welcome.
they're welcome. Okay, I'll put that in.
Oh, you and I should visit on how or what we want to do for the patriotic portion of the grand entry on Saturday.
Sure.
Other than that, that's all I have from 2 days wise, unless someone else. Great. Onward and upward to council reports. Anybody got anything to report?
Do you want me to be the water, what did I call myself last year? Do you want me to start calling HA and Luke when water's going?
Well, we might have to, and that,
I mean, what was I?
Well, if people are watering in the middle of the day, we need to know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right when
we-
I got that text, I was like, seriously, you're watering your grass, it's 3 o'clock.
yeah, so I think, I think anyone who sees it, we can certainly let, Katie know. And, we can start going down the enforcement road.
Yeah, we put a letter up on someone's door today.
Okay.
Yeah, but just shoot me a text or,
I really wish we
Moving
didn't
address.
have to,
Yeah, I agree.
but the thing, here's my biggest issue. Surprise, Sam, I have issue. Like, it feels to me, people are expecting us to track them down, hunt them down, and make sure they have every little piece of information that they need to know for them to comply with whatever we need to happen.
Yeah,
And it's not like we're shutting down the water because we want people to have brown lawns. Like,
right.
but nobody's going to their, I mean, I don't know, are we putting it on the website? I didn't even look. But
I put it on Facebook.
okay, so that's a start, but it seems like all they're willing to do is get on Facebook and say, who knows what's happening?
Right.
That's driving me nuts. So, like, if we have to start making sure people know what's going on by putting up warnings or fines or whatever it comes down to, I don't want to do it, I don't like it.
Well, and typically we start with a letter of like, hey,
A warning of some sort, which is
you've now been told.
the best way to go.
Right.
What did the letter say that you have on it?
It just says, want to make you, the first one is a warning. Want to make you aware of our water regulations. Here's the regulations. We noticed that you weren't following these. Here's a picture of you watering at 1 o'clock in the afternoon
Oh, okay.
today, and
Please don't.
no more again, then you have a fine, and all
Oh,
this the fines.
Well, and like with that sign there on the road, is it worth just saying, hey, Francis residents, visit franciscity.gov or whatever it is for water ordinance? Just so that I want people to be responsible for themselves and to be respectful.
So we sent out the ordinance
Issue.
on the reminder, the water reminder at the beginning of the summer.
Right.
That letter we sent out, so everyone should know about
Technically,
it.
yeah.
So I don't know that we need to put it on the board, but I think like where we had a change in and we had to restrict outdoor watering more, that's when you use that sign.
Right, well, and yeah, we can certainly add that information to to the website. I don't know, I mean, I'm like you, Clayton, I wish people would just be responsible for themselves. What concerns me is, will they actually go to the website? Will they actually look? Some probably will, the majority probably.
Were there specific users that were having multi-100,000 gallon drawdowns by themselves like we've had in the past?
Sure.
Their work?
There's some people with leaks, there's people that just water.
Well, what Jeremy's saying on the way I see most of the people that complain, and what they complain about is, oh, Francis City didn't tell me. Like, they didn't communicate well enough, and it's like, what else do you want me to do?
So the way to combat that is to adopt a very aggressive rate structure that people understand when their bill is, goes up $100 or $200 because they use all that water. Yeah, so they understand that, but that's the universal language that everybody speaks.
Right.
We kind of already have it. We've got the rate structure set up.
We sure do.
Do they
People
all,
are, what's that?
is it people that just aren't sensitive to that at all, so they don't care?
Oh, yeah, people pay $400 or $500 a month. They just expect it. There's people that's what they do.
Well, and the good thing is that
Every year more aggressive.
after this summer, we shouldn't run into this.
Because of the second.
Well,
Once we get the new well and the new tank going.
we're still gonna have the same water restrictions that not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely are. Water restrictions as far as watering times and things will
Which
go.
is dumping water in the middle of the day, whether there's a restriction or not.
Right. Right.
Just common sense.
I have a question, Jim. You said when we have, I thought that the new well was up on generator. We could fire it off if we needed.
It's gonna be there tomorrow, Monday.
Was the generator not there?
No, we didn't keep it there all last year.
So it was.
I was under the understanding it was there, and that's why I was at a loss as to why our tanks were so low, we weren't keeping up.
Yeah, so that was temporary pumping. That's expensive. So we didn't want to do that.
I saw that in last month's register. I saw the rental
Well,
for the
so
generator.
that was for the lift station. The sewage.
Oh,
That was the sewer.
But it's the same thing. It costs a bunch of money.
no, you're right, it does.
And so we wanted to avoid that. It just didn't work out.
Okay, I was
Unfortunately,
there.
Until next summer, when the tank is functional and the well is pumping to the new tank and everything's online,
Yeah, this isn't a water shortage, as in there's no water in the well. This is a capacity of pumping right now because
No water in
the
the tank.
the biggest well in the city is not currently connected.
Right.
This is,
How close are we to that?
To the tank?
Well, not so much the tank, because the water can be directed directly into the system.
Right.
How are we close to getting that powered up?
Yes.
It'll be before next year or this year?
The temporary one will be up hopefully by Monday.
But that's on generator.
That's on generator. And the other one will be ready for summer for sure, in this fall.
Are we Rocky Mountain Power, are we getting close to them, getting us
We're
power?
working with them, so it's changed a little bit with the subdivision not going in, but we're working.
Okay,
We were gonna work with them on the power up the road.
got it.
okay.
Okay. Any other? We still on council?
Yeah.
Any other council stuff?
I'm sure you jumped to John because you had reported that in your report.
Katie?
Okay, one thing I wanted to talk to you about is I met with some people from the Camas Valley History Group in the last month. We talked about having them write up more of a Francis history that we're gonna include in the general plan, in the appendix. It's gonna be a lot more detailed than what we have right now. They also brought up whether the idea that we would want to adopt a historic preservation ordinance. So This is a program, it's called Certified Local Government Program. It's designed to promote historic preservation at the local level. It's a federal program through the National Park Service, administered by the Utah State Historic Preservation Office. It makes us eligible to receive matching grants so that we can preserve some of our historic buildings. So, I have an ordinance that was recently adopted by Oakley. I don't need to go into a whole bunch of detail, but I just really wanted to know if that's something that you're interested in looking at more, if we should look at an ordinance to do this historic preservation, to make that somewhat of a priority.
Personally, I think so. Also, in your discussions, if you ask them if they have someone in their group, or if their group would look at locating some historical facts and photos that could be added to the foyer of the new building.
Ask about that.
That might be a good project and involve them in. I think that's important when you're, in order to kind of preserve that tradition and history, to keep that present in the new building would be nice.
Yeah, I think that would be good. Okay, so it sounds like we're interested in looking at doing an ordinance so that we can get the federal money for historic preservation. Okay. I'll ask them about getting some artifacts or photos for the new building. And then another thing that I wanted to bring up is the survey. If anybody you know has another survey yet, they need to be in by tomorrow. Tomorrow's the cutoff, and then I'm gonna start looking at all the data and results and finding out what the priorities are for the city. In the next meeting, we'll be talking about the results and share that information with you.
Perfect.
That's it for me.
How was the survey for the bike park?
Very positive, very positive. We went through the results of the planning commission meeting. It was overwhelmingly positive. In the meeting, we did have a couple of people that stayed, and it wasn't a public hearing, but Bob, the chair, did allow them to voice their concerns and gave them an opportunity to be heard. Even though we didn't have to, we felt like it was important to listen to that and try to mitigate some of their concerns.
Good.
But overwhelmingly, the open house was very, very positive. It was good.
Good. All right. Scott?
All right, talk about the well. The tank, just to give you an update, they poured the floor and 2 sections of the wall were poured. They're pouring in 4 sections. They're pouring the 3rd section on Tuesday, and then the next section will probably be the following week. And then they're gonna start working on the deck. The CPG project, the 1000 East Waterline project, that's out to bid. It'll be bid at the end of the month. So we'll bring that to city council to talk about who we award that to, and they're gonna get started first of August on that. The building, we put the request for qualifications out. They were selecting builders, they're gonna put their pre-qualifications in, and then we'll select the people that we want to actually bid their project, so we know that they know what they're doing when they do their bids. And that's due July 27th, and so after that, then we'll get the plans finalized and get that ready to go out to bid, I think the middle of August.
On 1000 East, I think we've talked about this before, but is there a way that we can hold the previous contractor responsible for some of the asphalt problems that are already popping up? Some of the shoulders breaking out on the new asphalt.
You're talking about last year's Bennett?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can have to look at that stuff.
There's some things there that should probably be addressed before their warranty expires. All right.
And just one thing, you just reminded me.
What?
What about the roads in Rockview Court?
Rocky Court.
Giant Lane? The roller coaster road. Have they,
We're,
it is a roller coaster for real.
Yeah.
I mean, it does make you go slow, but I would hate to plow it.
yeah, once we get the contractor that's gonna be doing 1,000 East, we're gonna pulverize that road like we did the other part.
Okay.
That Jeremy was just talking about. So we placed the culverts, gonna do the asphalt and that. I'm gonna have a look at that until we go there. So,
Okay, yeah, because we haven't signed off on that yet, have we, or have we taken over those roads, or?
the subdivision?
Yeah,
Yeah, that, we won't be extracted on that.
Yeah, Stewart Ranch is no, but that one, yes.
okay, because they're not very good.
No. Well, Stewart Ranch is worse.
I don't drive up through there yet.
Right.
Listen.
Well, luckily we haven't accepted those, so it's not a concern right
Okay,
now. The only thing I had is the water update, but you've been given that. I think that's it.
Can I make a motion to adjourn?
The most important motion in that. We have a
Second.
motion here. Second. Aye.
bye.
All right. That's it. Thank you.
Here's your.
You don't have to tear the place down.